The terms casket and coffin are often used interchangeably, but their use as synonyms is no open and shut case. Coffins are actually those 8-sided burial boxes that are narrower at the bottom. Think Dracula. Whereas caskets are rectangular. They can be made of metal, plastic, or wood. Whether the wood is ash, oak, mahogany, or something else, the casket's construction is generally the same. First, they run wood slats through a machine called a molder. This profiles the edges, carving a tongue on one side of each slat and a groove on the other. A worker applies glue to these edges, then positions the slats in a rounded vise that locks the tongues and grooves together. The glue dries in an hour and a half, bonding the slats permanently into a large curved piece. This piece will form the top and long sides of the casket's rectangular cover. To complete the rectangle, a worker now makes a V-shaped cut on each side and glues in a triangular piece of slatted wood. While a press clamps the components tightly together, he secures the end pieces in place with joint fasteners, which are like heavy-duty staples. Now a machine carves a groove into the cover's underside at the midpoint. A worker glues in a wooden piece, securing it with joint fasteners. This piece is called the bridge, and it's the point at which the cover will be cut in half later on. They transfer the casket cover to an automated machine that gives it a rough sanding, then a finer sanding. The next step is to attach a decorative molding to the base of the casket cover. This molding has a groove on the inside into which they'll later tuck the edge of the casket's upholstery fabric. A worker glues a small piece of wood in the groove at the midpoint so the groove won't show when the cover is open. Now he saws the casket cover in two, right through the bridge. Meanwhile, another worker assembles the bottom of the casket called the box. He glues together the sides and applies a bottom molding, securing everything with joint fasteners. At this point, the box is upside down. He attaches the bottom, then flips the box right side up. Now it's time to join the cover and box using 4 hinges. They spray the casket with one of countless shades of wood stain, then rub it in equally over the entire surface. The casket goes into an oven for an hour to dry the stain. Next, a worker sprays on 2 coats of lacquer with 40 minutes drying time between applications. This happens to be a high gloss finish, but many models have a duller sheen. Once the lacquer dries, a worker attaches handles. The more expensive the casket, the fancier the features. This higher-end oak model with decorative corners has wood and metal swing handles. Other models have all-metal swing handles or fixed bars made of wood, metal, or both. The fancier caskets also have an adjustable wooden bed inside with a mechanism to adjust the height. A worker covers the bed in fabric. The base model bed is made of absorbent paper laid over a product called wood wool, which is simply shredded wood. The upholsterer lines the inside of the casket with foam, covering it with either velvet, satin, or silk polyester crepe. By folding, nailing, and stapling this fabric a certain way, she creates pleats, tufting, and other design details. Generally, the more expensive the casket, the finer the fabric, and the more ornate the upholstery. A decorative trim hides the staples. Fabric straps or metal elbow brackets hold the cover open. When it comes to how beautiful and elaborate caskets can be, the ground's the limit.
We open and close them several times a day in and day out, and seldom give them a second thought. But imagine your home without doors. For one thing, you'd have absolutely no privacy. And what would you slam when you get angry? The first factory makes the doors plywood facing. They start by loading logs into steaming basins for 3 days. This de-ices them in the winter and softens the wood fiber. Inside the factory, the steamed logs line up for the debarker, a machine that removes the bark. The operator projects concentric circles and uses a laser to carefully center the log on the debarker. Positioning is crucial for 2 reasons: so that as little wood as possible comes off with the bark, and to ensure the debarked log ends up perfectly cylindrical. That maximizes the amount of wood veneer a log will yield. The next step is called rotary cutting. As the log spins, a lathe skims off a sheet of wood veneer just 0.6 of a millimeter thick. The average log yields 134 linear meters of veneer. Next, they unroll the veneer and cut it into sheets. Then they stack the sheets by identical grain patterns. Using a laser to position the blade, they cut through the stack to take out visual defects. Then they glue the pieces together. To make veneer sheets for the front of the plywood door facing, the side that will show, they line up the wood's grain and other features in mirror image. For the back, the side that won't show, they assemble the defective parts they cut out earlier. They use 3 veneer sheets to make up the plywood door facing. They apply glue to both sides of one sheet, then sandwich it between 2 other sheets. They feed the 3 sheets through a hot press at more than 100 degrees Celsius. In a minute and a half, the glue cures, and those 3 sheets of veneer become a 3-ply panel of plywood. Then they sand the panel. Plywood door facings can be made from more than 15 different species of wood, from birch and oak to maple and mahogany. At the second factory, they make the core of the door. They glue together strips of wood to form the middle, then frame them with pieces of white pine. A press pushes the core pieces together, then activates the glue not by heat as most presses do, but by microwaves. Next, they sand and calibrate the core. After the glue machine coats the core, they stick a plywood door facing on each side. They stack a few doors at a time into a cold press for a half hour until the glue dries. Then set them aside while the glue cures for another 8 hours. Next, they size the width and length to the final dimension, bevel the edges, and cut the exact height of the door. Then they inspect the door on both sides. A machine prepares the door for hinges. Then another machine cuts the hole for the knob. The finishing process takes just 70 seconds per door. One side is sanded, stained, and sealed, then sanded again and varnished. The machine then flips the door over and does the same thing to the other side.